Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you for joining this. Thank you for joining this session. I'm going to hand this over to Lindsay. But again, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and they'll be answered later. I'm going to put myself on mute and stop my video so you can see this awesome BattleBots panel.
Thank you so much. We are so excited. Welcome, and thank you for joining us wherever you are joining us from for this virtual panel of female BattleBots captains. We're very excited. I hope you are too. My name is Lindsay Faire.
And I'm Chris DeSico.
And we are two of the hosts of the Behind the Bots podcast, where we talk to builders, we learn about them, which is what we're going to do here today. So we are extremely excited to lead a conversation with Andrea Galately of Witch Doctor, Sarah Mallian of Nellie the Ellibot, Jen Herkenroder of Hijinks, Julia Chernyshevich of Ferocity, and Lilith Specht of Sporkanock, each of whom are captains of their teams and have a lot of experience both in and out of the BattleBots to share with us tonight. So again, thank you to everybody, for all of our participants and everyone dialing in today. Before we get started, as I mentioned, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the Q&A box, and we're going to add them to the script, add them to our questions as we go through. So we will do our best to get to all of them. We have a lot of questions, so bear with us. And so to kick it off, before we get started, I just want to go around and have everybody introduce themselves, tell us what team and what bot you're with, and let's get it going.
Yeah, maybe even tell us a little bit about your bot too, just to familiarize some of the listeners.
Sure.
Who's starting? I'll start.
Go for it.
Oh, well, let's do it.
I'm Lilith. I'm the team captain of Sporkanock. We're a new team this year, 11th hour add-in, thanks to COVID-19. Other than that, I'm the organizer of Robot Ruckus, and Sporkanock is a scorpion-tailed, scorpion-themed robot.
That is awesome. Sarah, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm the captain of Nellie the Ellibot on BattleBots, and I'm also one of the producers and host of the Beetleweight fighting robot show, BattleBots.
Julia, tell us about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Julia, and I am co-captain of Ferocity. And we're also a new robot this year. We are a horizontal spinner, but with a twist. So we actually have a turret that rotates, and then the spinner's on the front.
That's awesome. Jen, go for it.
I'm Jen. I'm the captain of Hijinks, which is a new robot. Before Hijinks, I helped build Scorpios for season 4 and Battle Royale with Cheese for season 3. So that's my minor pedigree in the sport, and I'm not gonna talk about the new robot because I promised that I wouldn't.
All very intrigued. Andrea, round us out.
I'm Andrea. I'm the team captain of Witch Doctor. When I'm not building robots, I build medical devices as a biomedical engineer, and I'm also the founder of Miami Makerspace. And if you're not familiar with Witch Doctor, it's a vertical spinner that has a skull-shaped disc and ribcage armor. So our team is all about being very competitive, but looking good while we're doing it too.
That is awesome. So I'm really glad that you mentioned makerspaces just there, because one thing that almost all of you, maybe all of you, have in common is that you have done a lot of work with your own local makerspaces. And makerspaces are really kind of the backbone of the maker community. It's where people can gather and try things out and really get making. And so I would just love to, again, go around the table with you all and just hear a little bit about your experience with makerspaces, what you've been up to there, and why you think they're so important to the community, and how others can get involved. So we'll do it backwards this time. Andrea, let's start with you.
Sure. I'd say I've been a maker my whole life. I used to paint and sculpt and do all sorts of, crafts when I was younger. But BattleBots really was my first introduction into making within a community. And that's really what hooked me on. And I've been looking for communities like that ever since then. So obviously BattleBots is a huge one that I'm a part of. But I do Pop Wheels racing like Jen also does. I'm actually building out a camper van now, an ambulance. So that's been a whole new maker community that I'm starting to be a part of. So really when we created our own makerspace down here in Miami in South Florida, it was about creating that community in our local area and getting these people together. Because when you get these makers together, amazing things happen, and it's so much more fun and so much more motivating than doing it on your own. So the maker community has been a huge part of my life, and maker spaces are just really the way to keep it going. So Lilith runs a maker space up in Orlando, which is not too far from us, so we are involved with them also in that community.
Awesome. Lilith, do you want to piggyback off that?
Once I find the unmute button, yes. Yeah, so I am the current president of FamiLab in Orlando, technically Longwood. It's a suburb. I've been on the board of directors there for 2 years. I've been a member for 7 or 8 now. And I'm also involved with Maker Effects, which is the maker space that is part of the Maker Effect Foundation that puts on Maker Faire Orlando. And I just love it because being on the board lets me, in a kind of direct way, give back to the community that has allowed me to do and learn so much. And the space in general is a great place for people to come to learn or make or whatever. We have a full machine shop, a laser cutter, a dark room, and some of the best people I've ever met, I've met through that.
Jen, I know that you were involved in Baltimore with a few different ones.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I'm actually coming to you live right now from 180 Studios in Santa Rosa, which is a makerspace here for the community. I have a private shop in the back, which is in a separate building from the main. And unfortunately, due to COVID, right now the makerspace at large is not open. But there are a few of us who have rent on specific shop areas. And as long as we are working safely and basically working alone, I've been allowed to continue working on the robot here and keep moving forward. So I've had this workshop in Santa Rosa at 180 Studios Makerspace for about 1.5 years, and I love it. It's a great little shop, but you're right, before that, I was in Baltimore. I'll just go ahead and, I like visuals. I was the president of Baltimore Hackerspace for 1 year. That was a fantastic experience. I found Baltimore Hackerspace almost accidentally back in like 2012, and my experience with that hackerspace was like tremendously helpful and useful because at that time I had $0 and very little access to tools, and it was a place where I could go on a Wednesday or a Saturday and borrow other people's tools. Essentially, like now I have 2 welders all of my own, and I have a welding fixture table. Like I've got all this cool stuff, but in 2012 I had nothing. I had like a car and some ambition. But in addition to Baltimore Hackerspace, I was also an instructor. I was faculty at the Community College of Baltimore County, which houses FabLab Baltimore, which is the least expensive makerspace for you to join in all of Baltimore City or County. It's funded a lot by grants, and they use that to get better access for the community. There's also Baltimore Node, which is another member-run space. There's unallocated space, which is more like software-ish. And then there's the Baltimore Underground Science Space, which if you're into biohacking, that's their jam. And at one point I was like, it'd be great. Like you've got bio, you've got software, we've got hardware, they have 3D printing. Let's all just be friends. And there's a pretty healthy maker network in Baltimore, including OpenWorks, which is now online and has a lot more new, interesting, big tools and also private shop spaces. So between all of these little nodes around Baltimore City and County, you can build almost anything you want in Baltimore right now. I do miss it. I am happy to be in California, but I love that area as well. So it's been great.
Awesome. Julia, how about you?
Yeah, I've been involved with makerspaces pretty much wherever I've lived. But after helping out a little bit with Robot Ruckus at Maker Faire Orlando, I met enough people that are super involved in their makerspaces, and so I wanted to get more involved in mine. Yeah, I'm now on the board of directors for that. We're reopening, and I think my favorite part, I was just thinking about it, is just how you can bring people together from all these different disciplines and industries and then have them collaborate and help each other out. And without a space like a makerspace, you wouldn't have that. So I think that's really awesome and great for the community.
And Sarah, do you have makerspaces near you?
Not near me at the moment. I never had even heard of such a thing until I got involved with robots. So my teammate, Rob Kopinski, introduced me to one because he helped me build my first ever Beetleweight robot. And he took me to the one in Cambridge, where he lives. And I literally walked in and my eyes just boggled and I was like, this is cool because there's all this stuff. And like, I had nothing at the time. Like I just about saved up enough money to get my first electric screwdriver and hex key set. So, you know, compared to what I had, it was like, whoa. So I totally appreciate the value of them, but unfortunately I don't really live near to one to really take advantage of it at the moment, but they do exist here, right?
That actually, I think, segues nicely into a question that a fan just asked in our Q&A, and they wanted to know if they don't have any maker spaces in their area, do you have any suggestions on how they can still get involved in the maker movement?
Who's that directed to?
Anyone who wants to chime in.
Well, so Instructables is still up and running, and the sheer variety of different kinds of projects that have tutorials on Instructables is really broad. And not all projects require a full metal and machine shop to get started. Sometimes all you need is a desktop and maybe some like hand tools, like some Allen wrenches and a soldering iron, and you can do things like programmable LEDs or like really small robots. It actually doesn't take a lot of money to get started. I started with junk. I started with RC trash, like broken RC trucks and things that like broken Power Wheels that people threw away and we'd go collect from Goodwill. I don't think you need a lot of money to get started if you can be a little ingenious. All you really need is a desktop that is, you know, a space that you don't also eat on, and then you can do small projects really easily.
Yeah, I think now it's even if you don't have that community locally where you can physically drive to a place, if there's a project you want to do, just do it and share it online. You know, that maker community is so easy to find now. Just on this panel, we have people from all over the world. So even if you can't find that community locally, I think having that community online is super valuable.
I'd add that it starts with a community. Like, just start getting together on a regular basis with people of like mind and like interests. That's how FamiLab started. It started in a storage shed with just people with the same interests interested in hacking. And it grew from there to where it's currently at with 120 members and 4,000 or whatever, however many square feet, a lot.
That's a really good point. Baltimore Hackerspace started with, I think, 10 people that would hang out in one guy's garage. And then eventually we're like, well, if we all paid $50 a month, we could rent a space and plant these tools, then we'd all have access instead of asking Paul if he's home that night. So there are definitely ways to grow it from a very small beginning.
I think that's really awesome advice and something that we can all do, especially now when a lot of us are spending more time at home. You know, there are things that we can do here even without special tools. So that's really awesome advice. All right, so we're gonna switch on over now and I'm going to get into questions for all of you individually. We're gonna start off with Andrea. So we actually have a question that was sent in from the Huva app.
It's new to me.
New to me. So what inspired you to go into biomedical engineering, and what elements of your experience in that field helped you in your BattleBots experience?
So a lot of people think you have to be an engineer to build robots. That's not true at all. And for me, it was actually the opposite. I started building robots when I was 14. And I decided to study engineering because building robots was so much fun that I wanted to do it for the rest of my life. So what do I need to study to just keep building robots? And engineering seemed to be that answer. And, you know, obviously being able to apply those skills to helping people led me to biomedical engineering, which, you know, a lot of people think that biomedical engineering sounds so different from BattleBots, but in reality, in BattleBots, we learned how to make things that don't break, right? The whole goal is to survive the match, more so than destroying the other robot. It's to not get destroyed yourself. And we're designing medical devices. You have to design things that don't break. It's unacceptable to design an implant that's going to break in someone's body because it has huge, huge ramifications. So how do we design things that don't break? We break them and find out where they break and how they break and make them better. So to me, it was the closest thing to BattleBots that I could find. And that's how I ended up doing medical devices.
So speaking of not breaking, we have a question from a fan named Andrew, and he wants to know, how did you come back to life in your match against Death Roll?
Yeah, we've gotten that question a lot. So I like to say that we're always one loose wire away from losing. I think that's true to everybody. These robots work against all odds. No machine is designed to be thrown 20 feet in the air and land and keep going for another 3 minutes. So there's a lot of times you get intermittent problems. And we've learned that enough to know that we should never give up in a match. And you actually see some of the newer builders, even on the TV show, the robot stops working and they take their hands off the control and they're done. And in that match, Mike, who's driving the robot, and I'm doing the weapon, neither of us, spun down or looked away, or, we kept driving in that match as if the robot was going to start working, and we got lucky enough that it did. We were moving the self-rider to try to jiggle the robot to see if we were stuck on the floor or something. But who knows? Was it a loose wire? Were we stuck on the floor? We're 30 feet away from the robot at that point. It's hard to know for sure. We didn't find any obvious issue. The robot was working perfectly after. So it could have been a million things, and that's just how the sport goes.
All right, so I think we can all agree that that match and that whole season in 2019 was so fun to watch, especially with Witch Doctor. What a powerhouse, and just so joyful to watch. So obviously that makes us all think, what can we expect with 2020 Witch Doctor?
I'm glad you phrased the question that way, because being joyful to watch is exactly what we're going after. There are so many teams that are just in it to win it. And obviously it's an international competition. It's the highest level in our sport. It's the Olympic of combat robotics. So we're absolutely in it to win it. But, I'm glad that it shows through that we're also having a blast living out our wildest dreams while we're doing it.
So does that mean no hints as well?
No, I'm not being secretive like hijinks. Witch Doctor is going to look similar visually. A lot of the change is going to happen inside. We improved the robot in between seasons, obviously, but it's really difficult to test a robot of this scale safely. So a lot of the time you see kind of growing pains in the first few matches, and that was absolutely the case for us last year. There was smoke in our first match, there was smoke in our second match, up until the top 16 when we stopped smoking. And between every single match, we made changes to try to stop that and to prevent things that were about to go wrong that we caught before it went wrong. So basically, we were iterating every time. And if you take a look at our robot as we progress, you'll see that the ribcage armor on our robot gets smaller and smaller as more matches go on. And that's because we're making changes that require additional weight. And the easiest place for us to cut weight is from the ribcage armor, unless of course we're fighting Nelly, where we would definitely need top armor, so we would definitely use the heavier top ribs for that. But so a lot of the changes that we've done now is to incorporate those changes that we made on the fly from the ground up. So that required a whole frame redesign. Hopefully we're going to see a Witch Doctor that's more reliable from the start, that doesn't have those growing pains. And then we're making improvements like making our self-rider more effective. We had a few times where it took us a couple tries to self-ride, and that's enough time for a bite force to get in there and get another hit. As we made those changes, we had to sacrifice our flamethrower because we no longer had weight for it, so you only saw that in one match. So we are not giving up on the flamethrower, even though a lot of fans want us to, because it does add some extra risk. But our team's all about the show, so we're going to keep that flamethrower, and we have enough weight for it now because we've designed other things into the system. So we're trying very carefully to make the robot better without ruining the things that made it work really well, because it took us 4 years to get to the point where we had a robot that was working well enough to make it to the final. So we don't want to mess that up. But you have to get better every year because everybody else is getting better every year. So if we showed up with the same robot, we'd already be behind.
That's very exciting to hear. I know we're all excited to see it happen when it does. So some of us have used this COVID quarantine time to watch a lot of Netflix. Some of us are learning how to make sourdough. Instead, you have just gone wild, making all kinds of amazing educational content on your YouTube page, on your Facebook, and it's been so great for me to watch. And I know a lot of people who are also learning about robotics and engineering. So can you tell us a little bit about the projects that you've been working on?
Yeah, I'd love to. So we do a lot of educational content year round, but most of it is in person at our makerspace. We run classes, we host events. We're hosting a Robot Riot tournament here at Maker Faire Miami. We had almost 50 robots registered, so obviously we had to postpone that. So with COVID, it was just a perfect excuse to, we're not spending time doing that, so let's take the time to make all of that content virtual. And really have access to more people, which has been on our to-do list forever, but this was just a great motivator to get it done. So we started the Witch Doctor Junior video series, which is basically an online BattleBots class. So for the past 3 years, we've been teaching BattleBots classes to kids and adults of all ages. And then we host a tournament where they could go compete for the first time. So we've taken what we've learned over those 3 years and put it kind of in a self-contained, it's gonna be a 10-episode series for now, that are going to take you all the way to being able to add a weapon to your robot. Depending on how it goes and how well received it is, we might do an advanced series for, this part is based on a kit. So the advanced series might be based on building your own robot from scratch and have a little bit more machining and kind of more complex things like that. So that's been a lot of fun. We have the first 5 episodes posted. So it's already all the way up to finishing your robot. So the second half of the series is going to be about competing and adding a weapon. Some other things we did, we published Witch Doctor magazine, which was really a lot of fun because I got to reach out to BattleBots fans who submitted articles for us, to Ben, which was a BattleBots fan who actually animated the bird hat that Mike wears. We got behind the scenes stories from a lot of our teammates. So the magazine is free now. It's a digital edition on our website. And yeah, we're just, we spent a lot of time building the robot, and all of a sudden that stopped because we were supposed to film in April, which was just at the start of this. So we found ourselves with a lot of unused energy that we had reserved for BattleBots. So we're trying to make it productive and yeah, put a lot of content out there.
That's fantastic. I'll follow up with one last question for you. BattleBots superfan Mary Catherine Carr wants to know what made you want to write B is for BattleBots. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? And then also, where can folks purchase one if they wanted to?
Yeah, B is for BattleBots is the official BattleBots alphabet book. So it's a kid's book that takes you through the entire alphabet, but all the letters aren't for the names of robots, they're for motors and electronics and pneumatics and kind of different aspects so that kids can learn a little bit more about robots. And I actually got the idea for the book at BattleBots. We were at a meet and greet because we usually come out after the matches and meet the audience as much as we can. And you just see all these little kids that are absolutely lit up. I mean, you could tell their life is never going to be the same after seeing live combat robot that day. But then they go home and there's really no way for them to channel that motivation or that new passion. So especially for really young kids that you don't really want to, be using screwdrivers and sharp tools yet. So the book was a way to get those kids thinking about all these different elements, get them introduced. And maybe because they read this book, they'll be a little bit more confident when they join their robotics class, in elementary school. So it's been a lot of fun. I collaborated with an illustrator in the UK who was actually, he did a bunch of BattleBots fan art on Instagram, and I really admired his work. So that was really fun because he was just as excited about the book as I was. So we really bounced off each other, and it was a lot of fun. I just started selling autograph copies of the book because I was just doing autographs at maker fairs and stuff across the country, and obviously it doesn't make sense anymore. So if you go on our website, teamwitchdoctor.com, you can actually buy autograph copies for the same price as they are on Amazon or the BattleBots store. And that's what's keeping us running the Witch Doctor classes and our makerspace during this time. So if you buy a book, it really, really helps us out with the content that we're putting out.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for everything you do for the community.
And check out B is for BattleBots.
Yes.
It really helped me a lot. I was struggling with several letters, but I really got this down pat now. All right, we're gonna move over to Sarah. Sarah, our Renaissance woman here. You do it all. You're the captain of Nelly. You're the queen of shunt posting. You're a host of the Shuntcast. You're a producer on BattleBots. We got a lot to get into and not a lot of time. So can you start by telling us a little bit about 2020 Nelly and what we could expect from Nelly this season?
So the design is a little bit different. The sort of biggest and most obvious notable difference from last year is the big old lip on the wedge, because we learned that lesson. hard. there were bits everywhere. So that's hopefully to protect against the likes of horizontal spinners. We've upgraded the drive as well to mag motors. Thanks, Will, my sponsor. But other than that, I can't really tell you too much because COVID's happened. And the trouble is, I've had a lot of time sat at home on my own thinking. And it's like, well, I've got all this time now. I could make it even better. But you'll have to wait and see. I'm saying no more on that.
There's too many secrets this season. I can't handle it. But I have another question from BattleBots superfan Mary Catherine Carr, and Mary says, Nelly has quickly stolen our hearts of all BattleBots viewers. Where did the idea for Nelly come from, and how long was your journey from fan to Roboteer?
Okay, so it started with, oh God, it was years ago. I was watching kids TV with my little boy. You know, it was a rainy day and it was just one of those days we've got kids TV on all day for the sake of your sanity. And I was zoned out to it most of the time, as any good parent is. But then there was this new program, so it got my attention. Oh, this is new. And so it's called Patchwork Pals on the British children's TV channel CBeebies. And the premise of this show is that there's these lovely little patchwork animals and they get into a little problem and then one of the other patchwork pals helps them. And there was this episode where a chicken had an egg stuck in a place where chickens would not like to get eggs stuck. And the animal that assisted it was an elephant and it used its trunk. This was kids TV. I'm not kidding. And I was like, is that allowed? Like, wow. And so I posted on Facebook and a couple of my Roboteer friends, most notably Sam Price from Maximum Overdrive on BattleBots. He's a parent as well and he saw it and I was like, were you traumatized by this, Sam? And he said yes. So I said, well, excellent. I'm now going to build an elephant robot to continue traumatizing you for the rest of your life. Then I needed a name for an elephant robot. And the first thing that came to my head was the children's song, Nelly the Elephant. And so I thought, Nelly the Ellie Bot? Yeah, okay, I'm going to build an elephant. And the very, very early original design of it was going to be a lifter. Then I decided bonking sounded much more fun. So actually it's going to be an axe. And then I designed the mace and so it became a hammer rather than an axe. But why not? It's for robotic glory. From getting into the community. So it was in, 2016 I got in. It was the announcement of the reboot of Robot Wars that alerted me to the live community, because I'd watched classic Robot Wars on the TV as a kid, but had no idea there was a live scene at all. Like once it went off the telly, that was it, forgot about it. But then the reboot happened and I discovered the online community and the smaller robots as well. Ooh, this might be accessible after all, actually. And then I made friends with people and they helped me build robots, and then I just stuck around, really. You can't get rid of me.
As the queen of shunt posting, this is a big one. What is your favorite meme of all time?
Oh, you slightly pre-warned me about this one, and I've been racking my brains, and so I've come up with an answer. I love so many of them that I couldn't possibly pick a favorite, but I'll tell you which one it isn't. And that's when BattleBots.
Duly noted. So that's actually a great segue. We at Behind the Bots had just set a when BattleBots meme in part of the 3rd anniversary celebration of shunt posting. Can you tell us a bit about the community and what you love so much about it?
It's where you come in the bot community if you're having a bad day. That's what it was for me. It started out in 2017 when I was at a really crap time of my life. And I just found myself drawn to this silly group every day because it was like, it was two things I loved. It was dumb memes and robots. It's like combined two things I loved so brilliantly together. And yeah, it just sort of became a source of distraction and humor and comfort. And I've made some amazing friends, and it's gotten people building who previously never thought they'd build before. It's been a sort of definitely a stepping stone for some people, which is odd. You know, who'd thought a meme group would get you involved in robots? But there we go. It's done stranger things. You've seen some of the pictures of Will Bales. I won't go into that too much more because this is a family show. Oh, yeah, so it's our third birthday today. 3 years of annoying the heck out of Roboteers with our sense of humor, if you can call it that. So if you're bored after this panel and want something to do and need something to laugh at, go on the Facebook group Robot Wars Shunt Posting and go and see our big birthday video. There are some wonderful messages of happy birthday from Roboteers, including Jen. Thanks, Jen. And Will Bales, and you get to see Scorpios destroying something. I'll leave it at that. Spoilers.
So Sarah, we can't move on without talking about BattleBots. This year, BattleBots released its second season, much for fans' delight. For those of us out there who don't know what is BattleBots, can you give us a description of what it is and tell them all where they can tune in for an episode?
Okay, so BattleBots is a beetle weight robot fighting competition, which in the UK is 1.5 kilogram weight class. It was we conjured it up because Robot Wars got cancelled again, and we were sort of like, we don't want robot fighting to end on the screen in the community in the UK, but at the same time, how can 3 people afford a heavyweight arena between us? No, we can't. So okay, let's think of something else. So we thought, well, beetles, because these days beetles really pack a punch. And okay, it's, you know, it's nowhere near on the same scale as the heavyweights, but with the right camera angles, it looks fantastic. And some of these beetles are amazing. And so it's really, the other thing I like about it most is because it's an event for the community, by the community. You know, none of the people involved are big production companies. Like pretty much everyone involved in it is a Roboteer or is the friend of a Roboteer who knew how to operate a camera. And Roboteers who weren't as Roboteers, like for example, Jerome Lievelu on the first series, I mean, he's a long-standing Roboteer, and he came and did a load of our camera work and brought all his own equipment to help us out, and it was amazing. And then on the other hand, on season 2, he came and competed, which was awesome. So yeah, so it's a robot fighting show, but much smaller and with no big, massive production companies. It's just us guys and our love.
It's a lot of fun to watch. We're gonna move on now to Jen. So Jen, you are a maker through and through. You've worked on just about everything from BattleBots to puppets to theater sets, drones, go-karts. That's just part of it. But this year you are joining the show as the captain of the mysterious bot Hijinks, one of the bots that, if anybody listens to the podcast, knows I am very excited to learn more about, and I'm waiting not so patiently. So I know you want to keep Hijinks mysterious, so I'm not going to ask you too many specific questions about it, but we do have a question from B is for BattleBots illustrator Caleb Kempson, who asks, when will we get our first glimpse of the elusive Hijinks, and is it just as awesome as everybody thinks it is?
So we have a plan, and as everyone is aware, COVID has caused a delay in the BattleBots season. It's been pushed back a few times. There's a chance that if production can do things safely and cleanly and can, you know, get all the logistics down, and it's an additional massive logistics challenge to try to do combat robots in close quarters during a global pandemic. We are still preparing the robot as if we're expecting any day now we're going to get the call. Like, we're still working on the robot, improving things with the expectation that any day now we're going to get a green light and we're going to be like, okay, now put it on the truck, go, go, go. So what I would like to do in the event that BattleBots is kicked even forward in the future and we have to wait a year, I don't want to imagine a reality in which there's no more BattleBots, because that would take my sleep away from me. It would be very upsetting. So in my mind, BattleBots is always going to be real, and it's always going to be just around the corner or maybe next year. In the event that we're not able to do BattleBots this year, but we have to wait until next year or wait for a vaccine or whatever logistic thing needs to happen, there are some folks from who are formerly at Make Magazine that I've talked to about putting together kind of an intro video, if you will. And the team, Lilith was on our team for the first few months of like the year, so she knows what was going on, and she's being so good about not giving up all the game. So thank you for that. But what I would really like to do is, if we have to wait a long time, I want to do like one of those like sci-fi camera swoops in, you know, slow-mo videos around, splice in some of the video that we took while we were building it, include the names of the team, because they've done a really good job. They've done a lot of really hard work. It's all volunteer. No one's getting paid for the work that they do. And we've got teammates. Maddie's in New Jersey, Michael's in Chicago. Some folks like Chesley are in South Bay. Orion is in San Leandro. We've all had to work alone for the most part, and then send parts here for assembly. It's really hard to continue working on something when you don't get to see it come to fruition, or when you don't get to have it in your hands. So I really want to do like a big snazzy reveal video, and then have like the credits be all the names of the team members, and all the people who have helped us out and sponsored us, like P3D Creations, Van Bever Brothers. We've got batteries from Jen Zace. We have a lot of people who have put faith and trust in us with the expectation that we would show them something really cool. I refuse to let them down. It's going to happen. We just don't know when. So I'm waiting to hear from BattleBots. And when we hear from BattleBots, we'll make a decision about when and where to reveal the robot. As long as there's a BattleBots in the future, ideally, just keep teasing you until we actually get there, and then, you know, give Tim Rackers $10 and have him rip the veil off and do the big announcement, because like that is my dream. But I understand as well, sometimes you wait too long for something and it's just like just frustrating. So there will be satisfaction, I promise. You will never not see what the robot is. So let's just cross our fingers and hope that we can do BattleBots quickly and safely.
Well, I know that we all, as much as we like to, you know, jokingly complain, we're all very excited to see it, and we're happy to wait as long as we need to. And the wait is going to be worth it. I know that. But so, since we can't ask anything about the bot per se, I would like to ask, when we go into the next season, are there any bots in particular that you would like to battle?
Oh gosh. So in a moment of what I'm just going to go with like pure serendipity, after last season on Scorpios, we had a big team meeting. It's kind of like a redux, a debriefing on the season. And we talked about things that we thought worked really well, things that didn't maybe work as well, things that we could improve, and then what the future of the robot might look like. And having observed a variety of weight classes, and having, for the small robots that I build are sometimes just not meant to be competitive. They're sometimes just meant to be fun for me, because I like fun things. But on the larger scale, when it comes to a competition like BattleBots, I agree completely with Andrea, and you want to win, yes, but you want to look cool and have fun doing it, yes. it has to be entertaining and you have to love it because it's so much work and it's so difficult that if you don't love it and you're not enjoying it, you're just hurting yourself. So at the end of season 4, we sat down and said, well, okay, what are the improvements we can make to Scorpios that would make it a top 16 robot? Like, how do we get, because it was close. It was a top 24 robot, and it was just like, it was so tantalizingly close. Like I could taste, like I could, I mean, it tastes a lot like a lipo fire, but I could taste victory. It was so close. But, you know, two vertical spinners back to back did enough damage on drive that, you know, the little robot was hobbling and got counted out. What could we do to take out the apex, the current apex? What is the most successful robot class right now? And if you look at the top 4, you've got Bite Force, and you've got Death Roll, and you've got Witch Doctor, and like, Hypershock. There's a lot of really effective, really well-driven 4-wheel drive vertical spinners, and they're fun to watch. Not everyone can build a 4-wheel drive vertical spinner, because then it would just be vertical spinner bots and not BattleBots. So the challenge is not to build the most premium iteration of this one kind of robot. The challenge is, well, what can I do that will break vertical spinners? If the whole goal, I'm sorry, Andrea, please forgive me. If the whole goal is to just break vertical spinners, what is the robot that will do that? That is the robot that I want to build. And Orion, we were sitting in Chewy's garage, and it was like, I want to build a robot that does like this, and it does this, and I think this would be really great. And he goes, oh, I designed one of those already. And he opens his laptop, and there's a folder that has 300 robot designs he hasn't made yet in it, I think, possibly more. Orion has a catalog library of like an almost infinite number of robot designs that he's just like, oh yeah, I'd like to build one of those too. And I looked at him like, okay, let's build that. And we weren't just gonna make it the next Scorpios. We were just gonna theme it like Scorpios and keep the color scheme. But BattleBots thought that the changes that we're making were different enough that Scorpios should stay its own thing. It should stay a top attack robot. And we're like, you know, all right, if that's what you want, that's what you get. And we sat down and sort of, we had 48 hours, like, okay, if we could retheme the robot, what's it gonna be? And we wound up settling on, I don't know if you can see this, but I have a little owl pin. We wound up settling on an owl, and it as a theme, and it wound up being a fun crossover with like Athena and Minerva and like the goddess of strategic combat. Like, okay, yeah, maybe this is all going in the right direction. So much like the Hypershock cat and the Witch Doctor, like we got a theme, and we got a idea, and we got a design, and we got everything in line. Let's do it. Now here we are. I have a complete robot, and then I have all the parts literally right here. I know it's tantalizing. Like, they're actually 12 inches off camera right now on the shelf. I have all the parts for a second robot. What we want to finish doing is, now that the first robot is done, we want to find a safe way to test it, and we want to perfect it. And then if there's anything that we want to edit or change or modify, then we have Robot 2 basically in parts ready to go. And that's where we're at right now. It's like Robot 1 is assembled, and we are preparing for safe testing. And then after that, we're going to look at what we can do with Robot 2 in the same iteration. We have the time, like, why not?
That is very exciting, and it is so tantalizing that it is so close to the camera and we can't see it. But
I will show you one part, and I won't tell you what it's for. How about that?
Okay, all right, I'll take it.
Okay. Okay.
A Miami Maker Faire exclusive.
Whoa! All right, that was a brief glimpse. I hope that you all took a photo.
I think that was part of a panini press.
So thank you so much, Jen. In the interest of time, I'm going to move on. Let's go on over to Julia, but we are so pumped. Thank you for sharing everything that you did about hijinks, and we can't wait to see it. So, Julia, you have competed on BattleBots before. You were the captain of Team A's Bucktooth Burl in 2016, Red Devil in 2018, and you were a member of Team 42's Marvin last year. So you are not a stranger to BattleBots, but this is the first year for Ferocity. So we'd love to hear a little bit about what Ferocity is and what does it look like?
Sure. So Ferocity is a brand new robot, and it's got a drive base that consists of 8 drive wheels. And so we're actually using DeWalt drill motors to power those. And on top of that, we have a rotating turret. And on the front of that, there's a spinning horizontal blade. And our thought process was somewhat similar to Jen's at the start of like, there's so many 4-wheel drive vertical spinners. We want to be something different. But then we went down the route of, okay, how do we just be like some creative, cool robot that perhaps could be made into a toy, or, it's just exciting for people to watch. They're like, hey, let's watch this thing destroy things. And then the other kind of driving mentality behind the design is we want to make sure that it's repairable, because really like BattleBots is one in the pits. It's, can you repair it? You're like Andrea said, it's you're one loose wire away from losing and having a dysfunctional robot. So it's okay, let's make sure we're using parts and we're using processes that would allow us to build a third, we're building 2 bots, but a third bot if we need it when we are down in LA. So yeah, that's mostly it. We've got some lovely sponsors, but most of the fab is being done in Antoine, my co-captain's garage. But we've sort of been on pause with COVID, unfortunately.
Yeah, it seems like some teams, either COVID has been giving them more time to work on their bots, or it's been giving them just less access to the bot. So sorry to hear that, but very, very exciting that you might have 3 versions to bring. That will make it very, very good to when you get some destruction there. So we have another question from Mary Catherine Carr, who wants to know, what is your inspiration behind Ferocity? And since what I've seen of Ferocity has a dragon motif, what would make up your treasure hoard if you could choose? So what would Ferocity's hoard be aside from win tokens?
Aside from win tokens, yeah. The inspiration behind Ferocity, we kind of liked the different themes that a lot of bots had. I'm not actually sure how we ended up on a dragon. I don't know. Yeah, bad memory. But as far as what we'd like to hoard, win tokens would be lovely, but also there's this tradition in BattleBots that when you destroy someone else's robot or you get destroyed, but basically after a match, you'll get a piece of their robot, and usually like autograph where you've done some damage. So I think that would be something really fun to hoard, because we're not coming into this thinking we're going to be like the #1 BattleBots. It'd be great, but really it's just like a new creative design and any sort of fun action that we can provide, and like, just have some really fun battle moments that are memorable and exciting. And those are the little tokens you have to keep from those. So, yeah.
That is awesome. And so you've also done a ton of work with the first LEGO League. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And then in your experience, do you have any advice for kids who are interested in learning more about robotics?
Yeah, absolutely. So with first LEGO League, I never got to do it as a child. I'm not sure if it was around or just maybe not as popular. But first robotics, FRC, was a big kind of shaping part of my life, and that encouraged me to go into engineering. And so I've been involved as a judge, as a mentor, as a basically the different roles, robot inspector, whatever they have, I've done it. And so FLL is wonderful because it really gets kids when they're young and gets them making. And I think if you get them making at that like young age, they'll kind of keep progressing and doing it in all parts of their lives. And so any advice? Yeah, I'd say if you're looking into getting into combat robotics, grab whatever tools and materials you're comfortable with. Whether that's like cardboard and glue sticks or Lego, maybe it's 3D printing, and just build your first prototype from there. A lot of us seem to be trying to get like a perfect robot right from the get-go. But I think it was Voltaire's, like the best is the enemy of the good. And in reality, no plan will survive its first encounter with reality. So, we might have a tendency to like avoid criticism, judgment, and that just gets in the way of progress. It's just try something, keep iterating. And even if you're not the expert at the start, as you keep iterating on your bot, eventually you'll have a really stellar robot and you can compete with that. So, yeah.
Awesome. And real quick, we have a question from Andrew who wants to know, do you have a mini bot?
No, we do not have a mini bot. With so many moving parts, you're thinking like 8 motors just in the drive base. We've got multiple motors powering both the turrets, and then we have, for the actual weapon, we don't have enough weight. The intent was actually to have a walking robot, but the details of that, BattleBots and us could not agree on. And so we had to take a design that was supposed to be 500 pounds and scale that down to 250. So it's challenge enough as it is, no weight for minibot.
That makes sense.
Okay, we're gonna move over to Lilith. Lilith, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Ready with her spork?
Ready with spork in hand. Lilith, you're an integral member of the maker community in Orlando and a driving force behind the Orlando Maker Faire and the heavyweight competition there, Robot Ruckus. Luke, Lindsay, and I had a chance to attend the last Robot Ruckus, and I think it was the most fun we've ever had. It was so cool. Highly recommend anyone go check that out the next time that there is one. But this year you're competing on BattleBots as a rookie, which is very, very exciting. And you're competing with Sporkanock. Can you tell us what we should be expecting from Sporkanock?
Sure. Yeah, I have it mostly done. So I got tired of watching all the competitors from Robot Ruckus go on to BattleBots, and none of them inviting me. Not salty at all. So I finally got a robot accepted for BattleBots. And Sporkanock started as a 1 pound, and it's always been a hammer bot of some kind. So I wanted to build a hammer bot, but I didn't want to do just any hammer bot. And also I didn't feel like buying a ETAC or some high dollar, high weight, high amperage motor. So I was like, how can I get around that? So I thought of the idea of a flywheel powered hammer. So Sporkanock's main weapon, while it is a hammer, is powered by a flywheel. Somehow. That's still to be fully worked out, all the kinks, but I've stolen a design from Charles Guan called the Wubba Box, which is a compound planetary gearbox where you can very smoothly transition power into the weapon.
So this is a very important question. As a member of the trans community, what do you hope to show others in the community by competing in BattleBots?
So one of the driving things for me was to give the trans community a icon, like someone to look up to, because it's honestly woefully lacking. I was fortunate enough at FamiLab to have one when I started my transition. And besides just a general icon, I want to show people that you can still do the things you did before you transitioned, after you transitioned. I've been doing combat robots since I was a little boy. And your identity, while it is a defining factor for you, it doesn't define what you can do. Like, you can still do all this. You can be a girl. Like, if you feel like you're a girl and you were meant to be a girl, you can be a girl and you can do robots or whatever. And also, like, other than that, I'm not an engineer. I have 0 college experience. So I want to be that representative of, I'm not an engineer. I'm a member of a hacker space that started building things in the garage and is still technically kind of building things in a garage. So anybody can do this sport.
That is so cool. I have a question here from Lindsay Urko, who asks, do you have a finned, furred, or scaled friend who helps you unwind at home? If you do, what's their name?
So I have a lovely cat called Gryffindor. I adopted him when I moved to Orlando 8 or 7 years ago. It was just his birthday at the end of July. So he is the second love of my life after my girlfriend. And then on top of that, I adopted a pitcher plant from one of the previous tenants where I live, which is nice because with both a cat and a pitcher plant are two very low maintenance pets. Just kind of, with the pitcher plant, you just leave it outside. It eats all the bugs.
We need one of those.
Yeah. we only adopt the most high maintenance pets. So I have a 3-part question here from BattleBots superfan Mary Catherine Carr. And here we go. Why are sporks not used more often when they're clearly the superior utensil? Part 2. Are Sporkanock and Scorpios sisters or mortal enemies? Part 3. What's your favorite thing to eat with a spork?
Sporks should be used more often because, like, especially for potatoes and things that are like kind of rough or fried rice, like you can stab things and then eat them and still get like a good bit of rice, a good bit of the potato. It also has somewhat of a cutting edge. I don't know why they're not used more often because people suck. The second one, Scorpios. To be completely honest, I completely forgot Scorpios was a scorpion-themed robot when I was designing the new Sporkanock. And then I realized it. I'm like, I'll decide that later if they're enemies or friends. I guess it depends on who wins the fight. If they fight, because I think Sporkanock might lose. And then favorite thing to eat with a spork? Mashed potatoes. And it's funny that something I found out recently, sporks in one part of the internet are a trans icon because they're the blending of spoon and fork. I don't really get it, but it's a happy coincidence.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So I know that we are coming up on the hour, but I wanted to jump really quickly into some general questions for all of you to, jump in and answer. So let me see here. So the topic of sexism came up a lot in our original question thread. So I'm going to ask one of the iterations of it. So Mary Catherine Carr asks, I want to touch on sexism in the sport. What a surprise coming from me. So have any of you been victims of sexism within robot combat sport, and how have you coped? What advice would you give girls who might encounter it, and what advice do you wish that you could go back in time and give your younger self? So Andrea, I'm gonna throw this over to you first, and anybody else feel free to chime in as well, because this is something important.
Yeah, I'm actually glad that the topic of sexism hasn't really come up on this panel so far. I think we've all been talking about the awesome things we make, independent of the fact that we're women, because gender is really independent of your ability to make stuff, which is what makes this sport so great. I'd say I went to an all-girls high school, so I learned how to build robots in a very supportive environment. It wasn't until I was in college that I even realized it was kind of a boys' sport. But by then I had about 4 years of combat robotics experience and all the boys that were just learning to do it in college. So I was very well accepted. I've been lucky that I've never really experienced sexism in the sport. I would say definitely not from the builders. I think especially in this sport, if you prove you know what you're doing, everybody's just happy to meet a friend who loves this crazy sport as much as they do. It's a pretty niche sport to be in. But I was disappointed when the show started airing. I actually started getting a lot of those kind of comments in the fan base. So for me, this was totally unexpected because I had such a great experience within the community itself. And throughout the first few seasons, really until the last season, I haven't really wanted to talk much about being a woman in the sport because I figure to all the little girls watching, I don't need to insult their intelligence. They can see that I'm a girl. They can see that I'm being competitive and giving it all I've got. But especially the last season when we actually did really well for the first time, I've realized that it's really more important for the little boys watching. No kid believes they can't do anything until they're told otherwise. And these girls are going to be told otherwise by the boys. So for boys to grow up with Witch Doctor as their favorite robot because it's awesome and super competitive and throws Gigabyte up in the air, that means that when they see a girl on the robotics team, they're going to say, hey, she builds robots like Witch Doctor. They're not going to think, oh, I've never seen her in the garage with her dad fixing the car. so she probably doesn't know what they're doing, you know? So I've really kind of refocused. I don't need to inspire the girls. They're awesome. They're ready to go. We need to inspire the boys to really make it a welcoming community.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else want to jump in, or I can ask one more quick question if we have time? Sarah, yes. Sarah, you're on mute.
Hi, sorry. Can I just say that sexism is really annoying, and like Andrea said, it's mostly coming from the fan base. However, conversely, there are also some amazing fans like Mary Catherine Carr who bring the sass and the clapbacks and everything, and it's amazing. And I wish it didn't have to exist so that those things didn't have to happen, but the fact that people like Mary swoop in and honorably defend us is amazing. And I want to go on record as saying, Mary, when BattleBots happens, because I know you're intending to attend filming, come and do my pulverizer, okay?
Oh, that is exciting, Mary. I hope that you heard that. I know you're there on the chat. I'd love to get one more question if we have time. If not, just kick me off. But this is from Lindsay Yuriko, who wants to know, do you have a female in science fiction or fantasy hero? And have they inspired you to do anything? So again, open question. Whoever wants to answer, go for it.
I have a lot. I could rattle off several. Obviously, Ellen Ripley, because, oh my God, badass woman in space shooting aliens and just slapping down the Space Marines.
Sam Carter, Stargate SG-1.
Yes.
Janeway.
Janeway as
And
well.
7 of 9.
We're fortunate these days to have so many. We still don't have like a lot, but we have so many. And for like younger audiences too, we have like Katara in Legend of Last Airbender. And we have like She-Ra. Like, I personally love the new She-Ra. It is amazing. It's on Netflix. Go watch it. We'll let other people talk now if they want to chime in.
I'm going to push my luck with one more question. Also from Lindsay, and I think this is a good way to end the chat. What would you say not only to girls, but to people who might be hesitant to break into the sport? What advice can you give them?
Like Shia LaBeouf says, just do it.
I would say to come to our 7 p.m. panel. We have some local builders who have a wide range of experiences. Some have been to one event, some have been to a bunch. But there's this whole world of combat robotics outside the TV show. So if you want to get involved, definitely come to the 7 o'clock panel and ask them a ton of questions. Give them a hard time.
If they let me do it.
Lilith, Andrea, Jen, Sarah, Julia, thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry to everyone in the audience. We didn't get to everybody's question, but maybe we can do a follow-up somehow, either over text or something. I really appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much for participating, and really can't wait to see you guys in the battle box again soon.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks
Keep having us.
Again, also, thank you to all the panelists. Thank you for making it from Miami. We are definitely humbled for you guys to be on today.
Thank you for having us.
Okay.
Hours flew by.